or anything, but she was like, he's basically good at his job, so, listen carefully to the questions. Don't say anything you don't want said. And, but we got along. There was a Smurf involved. There was a figurine.
Oh, was this TV Guide offices?
It could have been. We were sitting up.
Yes, this was a TV Guide in the
at
offices.
a high table, like at bar stools.
Yes. Right,
Yeah.
there was a Smurf. Yes.
Yeah, it was a Smurf.
Oh, good.
I don't remember what Smurf it was. And we've been friendly ever since. Like, anytime we see each other, it worked out well. You didn't ask any questions that were painful. The reason I bring that up, though, is because that was that many years ago, and when you were going through the events in this book that unfolded, I had no idea. And part of that is because you were giving updates on Facebook, which I am not on. I think part of it's because I don't maybe stay in contact with some of the pieces in the internet or whatever that might reveal things that could. I don't want to read anything about myself accidentally, so I sometimes miss other news about other people. And the only reason I bring that up is because if you go on your Instagram feed right now, there is a picture of us at the Emmys 3 years ago as of tomorrow, where we're together, and you're in the thick of all this, and I had no idea, and no word was spoken, and it's a funny feeling, to know that you were going through that, and I was with you and had no idea. I imagine, and maybe you've talked to her, there's a picture of you and Kristen Bell, and she didn't know what was going on.
There's actually video of the interview I
did
with her when I had just, and I talk about it in the book about how we were just learning how bad and serious
Kit's situation was.
We didn't know it was cancer, but we knew. This was right after we heard, the doctor saying, "I'm concerned about Christopher." That was his kid's full name. And then I had to go in and interview Kristen Bell on camera at TV Line in our offices about the Veronica Mars movie, which I have for years been looking forward to. Like this interview I was looking forward to forever, and then suddenly this bomb is dropped on me, and I still, I thought about canceling the interview, but I was like, no, this is really going to be good for the site, and also maybe it's not as bad as we thought. Maybe he doesn't have cancer.
Right.
But if you watch that video, you can hear the dry mouth that I had. And I don't have dry mouth usually, but there was just so many emotions going on in my head. My heart and my mind was elsewhere, and I think it manifested itself in the dry mouth.
Absolutely.
And if you listen to watch the video, you can see it.
Have you talked to Kristen about this since?
I haven't talked to her. In fact,
really?
I've actually tried to reach out to her because I don't actually have direct contact to Kristen, so I've been trying to get the book to her through other means. If anyone knows Kristen Bell, let her know she's in this book in a pretty significant way.
At least the two of us.
Yes, we can do something.
Okay, I'll try. Kristen's such a sweet person, as you know.
Yeah, no, I love
really
her, but for whatever reason, I
She's
haven't
avoiding
been able.
your book. Not so sweet. Something I also wanted to touch on, not because this is about me, but because, well, I am here. So. Michael asked me to do this Q&A long before I could have ever read the book. It wasn't available to read, and I jumped at the chance. And there was a point midway through, I was like, what was I thinking? This is so heavy. But bigger than that, I did... And I've sort of said this to you already, I came away from it going, I don't know, you either knew more about me and my life than I could have ever thought possible, or, which I think is more likely, you're very intuitive, because it was a shocking amount of commonalities in our lives, in our relationships. I mean, certainly several specifics diverge from each other, but there's Todd right there. I'm sorry, you don't have to stand up or anything. I should have never said anything. Okay, you're incognito. Never mind, that's not Todd. But it is. It's not Smurfs. It's not Diet Snapple we have in common. But we've both been in long-term relationships with our partners. We both met our significant others in New York City. We both developed the bedrock and patterns of these relationships in New York. Your first date with Kit was roughly 4 days before I moved to New York. Which, on that note, too, you mentioned, it was 2 months after 9/11. And what's funny when you mentioned that, like I say, I was just moving there, but I was feeling from everybody that same sense you talked about, which is like, you know what? it's time to try and have some level of fun again. You may have to walk past the armory with the faces plastered on it or whatever, and there may still be smoke coming up, but we're time to get out and do something, and that's when you met Kit. I met Todd almost 1 year exactly. That next November is when we met. All four of us are roughly the same age, no millennials in the duo here. You refer to your cat, Mr. Scooch, Mr. Scooch, as your relationship's mascot. Our Maltese dog Otis will turn 14 next month, 1 year shy of our relationship age, and he's our mascot too. You travel to Pennsylvania to visit Kit's parents. I do the same thing to visit Todd's parents in Philly. You and I both work in entertainment, currently with a TV focus, while Kit and Todd are both designers. Todd's mostly a now non-practicing graphic designer. You and Kit travel well together, you say. I'd say the same for us. You and Kit shared an apartment in New York that had an outdoor space that was accessed through a window. Yes, so did me and Todd. You and Kit walked home after visiting City Hall for your marriage license, and Todd and I also walked, although we went to lunch, we didn't walk straight home, but we also walked, which I was like, this is... The bottom line is I think that in an alternate universe, you and Kit are our go-to double date. But the reason I'm talking about this is because these connections made it a very, not difficult read for me at times, but, and certainly not more powerful, because I think the power of what you've written lies in the fact of any story of two people in love who build a life together. And then to see that life called into question by the events of life and eventually turned upside down by the events of life. But as far as it was way too easy to put myself in your shoes. It was way too easy to put myself in either of your positions and put Todd in the other one. And maybe anybody would feel that way, but I think there was something there that was hard, and in a good way. And I think mostly, though, for me personally, it's been such a gift to read this because those commonalities have helped me look at things with a new appreciation. And you hear things like this a lot about things, but this was one of them, and it's very true. A new appreciation for the day-to-days and the mornings and the chance to even just wake up again. And you realize that it's a lot to do with luck, and I hope that doesn't sound offensive in any way, but it really is just kind of a shitty roll of the dice that Kit's not here with us now. Of course, none of us would be here now because there'd be no book to be written. Anyway, that all said, this is a very funny book. It is... And Todd felt the same. Everybody who's read it felt the same way. It is a page turner. Maybe who's read it, by the way? Have all of you read it? A lot of you. Okay. It is a page turner.
If you have not read it, please leave now.
It's very funny. I don't want to say you dwell in gallows humor because you really don't very often in the book. But and this I told you too. Some of the funniest parts to me are some of the most tragic, are you fucking kidding me life situations in there. Todd, before he read it, would ask me why I was laughing. I'd say, I couldn't possibly tell you, because everything I'd list, you'd go, not funny, not funny. And I'm like, but it is. At what point did you know you were going to write a book about this?
Probably 3 months after Kit died. 2-3 months after Kit died. I decided I was going to do this because 2 months after he died, an editor at Simon & Schuster who was following my posts on Facebook and who was very moved by the story reached out to me and said, I think there's a book here if you're interested in writing it. And then I went home and I thought about it for about a week. And I knew instantly when the opportunity was dropped on my lap that it was something I had to do. At the same time, I didn't know if I could do it. I didn't know if I had the strength to immerse myself back into the worst year of my life. And also even go back to the 12 years that came before it and even relive the happy times would be painful. And also just practically, I've never written a book. I write 300-word news stories about who's leaving Grey's Anatomy, and which is very different than a 30,000 word book. So can I do it? So I ultimately was like, I have to try. And so we played our
Did
luck
you
on it,
know? Did you know? Oh God! Did you know specifically why you were going to do this, or was it more you were asked and you started, and the reasons you were doing it kept evolving as you went?
I needed to do it because I needed to find some meaning in the hell that he went through. I needed to turn a negative into a positive, and I needed everyone to meet Kit.
Yeah.
I needed everyone to get to know this extraordinary, complicated person.
Yeah, I will say that on that note that one of the hardest parts about the book being over once you're finished reading it is going, God damn it, I can't meet him. And it's a different, like, there are other books where people die, fiction books where people die, and they can be very effective, and there's a certain haunting quality about them that's aching in its own way because you know that they don't exist. You're like, why did I invest so much? And they're not even there. This one was particularly hard in a different way because of that very reason. And I did find myself scanning through his old Instagram feed.
And the thing about Kit is that whenever I would introduce him to someone, almost in every case, they would walk away enjoying him more than me. And that's the case. That's the case of my own family, my nephews and my nieces, who we would go visit, and I would be like, hi, and then go sit on the couch and watch TV, and Kit would make a beeline for the playroom and be playing with them and engaged with them, and that's just the way he pretty much was with everybody.
Everyone likes Todd more than me too. Don't worry. Did you change any of the names in the book?
Yes, I changed the doctor's names.
I have marked here specifically. You're not. Don't go easy on those doctors. And I'm not saying you should have, but I was like, oh, hurt business.
Yeah. So I changed the name of the doctors, just
so you
legal
could freely
reasons.
talk about it.
And then I changed the name of the person, the gentleman who Kit had an affair with.
That's the other one I had on here. Yeah. Not Todd after all, Todd. That's what you named him. That's what his name was. Well, I can rest easy.
But beyond that, everyone
else has a name.
Yes.
Did anyone ask not to be included, or did they even have that option? Really?
No one asked, and I didn't ask for permission.
Yeah, well, that's not surprising.
Yeah, but no one came and said, can you not?
Yeah.
There were a couple things I reached out to someone, and I was like, is it okay if I revealed this? I felt like it was my decision to reveal what I wanted to about me and Kit.
Right.
Beyond that, like Kit's friend Missy, I think I refer to her as a fellow pot aficionado. So I reached out to her and like, are you okay with me calling you a pot aficionado? And
Hey, deadhead.
like, absolutely.
Good.
So there were a couple little things like that.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking. Michael knows he's allowed to say, not answering to anything I say, or if you didn't, now you know. And there's no bones about it. I will tell you, I tend to ask some blunt questions in everyday life, and I sometimes usually get away with it. When people are shocked that I've asked it, I'm typically shocked right back, and then I realize, oh, well, no, most people wouldn't ask that, but it's because, and I'm saying this for the sake of moving forward, I have zero judgment.
Yeah.
I have no judgment about anything. I'm only a very curious person.
Here we go.
Yeah.
That
I
said,
just want to know.
what the fuck is with the Smurfs?
No, it's more puerile than that. What? Can you name any of the toys in Kit's sex kit? You don't have to.
No, so...
I know poppers because you took the poppers from the sex kit.
Yes, there was a draft of the book that in very explicit detail listed everything
I
that
waited
was
and
in there.
waited and waited.
I can send that to you, Jim, afterwards. there were vibrators in there. I mean, that's
Okay.
I know that
Yeah.
word. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know that. Beyond that, I don't know. Let's not go beyond that.
Okay.
This is
There we
Barnes
go.
and Noble, Jim.
Oh,
This isn't the Hustler store on Sunset.
you didn't write Harry Potter. You wrote about cancer and sex. So. Okay, whatever.
Fair enough.
Who was the first person outside of anyone working on the book that read the book? Like, not you, not your editor, but...
My brother David, who's here. David, where are you? Right here?
Oh, hey, David.
Thank you.
Wait. Side note on that. If you're not following Michael on Instagram, and I assume most of you are, you must. It's more entertaining than most celebrities will follow. Secondly, you'll get to watch the footage of him and David going through Emmy weekend, which is already only 24 hours into it. Amazing. Amazing. We can cover that later. So David, did you watch him read it?
I was actually Dave and Kit's best friend Jen. I did not watch him read it.
How quickly did he read it?
He read it fairly quickly.
How about
And,
Jen?
Jen read it in a couple days too.
Were you nervous?
I was nervous.
I don't blame you.
I was nervous because my editor Rakesh and was very effusive and said there's something really special here, but that he's my editor, and I'm
Right.
like, he says that to all of his authors, and
Or they're in the incubator with you, if nothing else. It's
Right.
like, you can't see this clearly.
right, yeah.
I don't trust your professional opinion.
And I just think everything I write is terrible. So I didn't trust I was like, I needed to have an objective person. David would have told me if it was shit.
Yeah.
That's the thing about David. He doesn't really mince words, and that's a fault that David has. Like, sometimes he should mince words. But I knew that he would let me know honestly what he thought. And he sent me this beautiful email, really beautiful email after he finished reading it, in which he said, is it okay that I share this?
Too late now. He's
He said that the book made him sad that he didn't get to spend more time with Kit, and that his children didn't get to spend more time with Kit, and that he thought the book he loved it, he was proud of me, and why did you have to call me a cheapskate?
I don't remember that part.
Thank you. Good.
Yeah.
You took it out.
No, it's in there.
I have to go back and reread for these little Easter eggs. I'm criticizing family members. It's so wonderful. How did you? I'm sorry, this jumps all over. This is part of me being bad at it. How did you and Kit discuss/decide to start seeing a couples therapist, Tony?
After there was an infidelity issue that came up at the end of toward the end of our first year that would have been a deal breaker if we didn't get help.
Right.
Like, it wasn't something that, like, that was for me an ultimatum. I'm like, if I'm staying, we're going to counseling.
And you were with you and Kit were both going to Tony religiously up until the very end?
Yes. Well, the last year we weren't really able to see him
Yeah.
that frequently. He came to our apartment for a session, and then I just didn't have the time to go see him. But yes, up till Kit got sick.
Was that a weekly thing?
It was weekly, and then we do bi-weekly if things were going okay, and then if we hit a crisis or a bump in the road, then we see each other weekly. But Tony was a massively large part of our life.
Yeah.
We were with him for 13 years.
What is your relationship with Tony now?
He's my individual therapist.
He is your
and that was
therapist.
something Kit said. The last time he spoke to Tony, he said, "Please tell me that you'll take care of Michael when I'm gone, and that you'll see him individually." And
well, you moved. You don't live in the Jane Street apartment anymore, right?
No.
But you did not move far.
No, I moved up the street. Not far, because I love the neighborhood we lived in the West Village, but at the same time I couldn't continue to live in the apartment where he died.
Right.
Too many memories. The apartment where for 11 months he was battling this disease. I needed to get away from that, but I still wanted to be close enough to it to feel near him. So
Well, I segued off of Tony into that only because it wasn't the same sort of painful to see the couples, Tony. Like, it wasn't the same sort of thing, like this is hard because this was something Kit and I did together.
No, so the first couple times,
right,
going in there alone, because, Kit and I would do this thing. Kit was always late to couples therapy. And part of it was because his Wyeth, the store where he worked, was downtown and was further away from Tony, so he was always running late. And I was always in the waiting room, and I'd be like, looking at my watch, and it's like, he's not here in 5 minutes, and he's gonna get an angry text. So anyway, but he would always do this cute little knock on the door in the waiting room when it was him, and it was instantly whatever anger I had about him being a minute or two late would evaporate because he was just being so cute and contrite about being late, but he had this special knock that he did. So sitting in that waiting room the first couple times, waiting for Tony to open the door and say it's time, that was hard because you want the knock.
Yeah.
And there was no knock. So, and Tony has I did a art exhibit about a year after Kit died of his photography in New York.
Of his photography?
Of his photography.
Wow.
So I took the photos he took on his last trip to his hometown in Millersburg, and had them framed, and I rented out a gallery space in downtown Manhattan, and I invited his friends and family and just hung up about 40 pictures from his last trip to Millersburg, because he just went around town and took the most amazing pictures, these beautiful photos that just meant so much more knowing it was the last time he was ever going to be there, and he didn't know it was going to be the last time he was there, or maybe he did.
Yeah.
So I did this art exhibit, and everyone who came got to take a piece home.
Wow.
And Tony took a piece of that Kit photo of the river front that meant so much to Kit, and it's hanging in his office over the counter where all the couples sit. So I see Kit, Kit every time I come
That's
there.
amazing.
But it's not painful anymore. It's nice.
Good. Well, I know when you talk about Tony coming to visit the apartment because y'all can't get there, Tony's obviously very, very affected by the situation, and I think it makes sense because I don't think it's the rare client that has a relationship that long with their therapist in any situation, much less a couple, and going through therapy that long and being devoted to it the way the two of you were. So that's very nice.
Also, I want to say one more thing funny about
Please do.
Tony. Because he's such a phenomenal therapist, we recommended him to so many of our couple friends that it got awkward at Kit's memorial service because Tony was there, and it was literally like a waiting room of all his clients.
Oh my God. One of the reasons I've never had a therapist is because I only trust I would only trust people that I loved and their recommendation, and I feel like I can't go to their therapist. So I've been like, fuck it, good luck. Keep rolling. I don't know, again, my order is so bad, and you can pass.
Did you really, these are how long did you prepare for this?
It's not so much that I'm mostly I really, really loved the book, and like I said, I didn't know how to tackle this other than just going, what questions occurred to me as I read it and after I finished it. So that's all this is.
This portion is only 25 minutes.
Are we in severe danger?
I think we're fine, but you've got 4 pages here. Are we
I'm not going to get through all of them. They're not important. All right. They are to me.
Oh, honey.
So here's one that you can pass on if you don't want to ask it or answer it. Have you dated anyone since Kit passed?
Not seriously. I mean,
Okay.
I went through a little bit of a slutty phase after Kit died.
Did you really?
I felt like it would be in tribute to him.
That is so loving, Michael.
I was like, what would Kit want? Kit would want me to fire up Grindr as I walked out of his memorial service and just start fucking my way around. And then that sort of didn't really, it just wasn't, it was just empty and wasn't fulfilling in any way. And then the book, I just immersed myself in the book, and that became my boyfriend, and, for lack of a better word, for 18 months.
I think they call that a boner killer.
Yeah.
Working on a book about death. Have you had any alcohol?
Oh, so...
Are you drinking again, Michael?
So wine to me became a real problem, as you saw in the book. Partly because I was bringing it into the house and we were having relationship problems and Kit was high all the time. And, and I was drinking and we were just self-medicating in our own way. And I think I wasn't realizing what a problem wine had become until, and I talk about this in the book, when I literally stopped because Kit went into the hospital and it disrupted my evening wine routine. And a couple days went by without it, and then a couple weeks went by without it, and suddenly I dropped 25 pounds.
Jesus.
And I was like, holy shit, I was drinking a lot of wine. And I felt more present
Sure.
after it, and I just felt freer. It was just very liberating to not need it suddenly. So to answer your question, I did not have a drop of alcohol for almost a year and a half after Kit died, because I didn't want to start drinking while I was writing the book, because I didn't want to find out, I do have a serious problem with all forms of alcohol, and now I can't finish the book because I'm laying on Fifth Avenue in a pile of my own vomit. About at one point, I think it was probably a year and a half after he died, I went out and had a drink. It was sort of kind of a date situation, and I was like, I'm gonna have a vodka soda because I don't like the taste of vodka, and just having soda with it makes it the most bland drink. But at the same time, maybe we'll take a little bit of the edge off, and I can be social. So, and that worked out. So I have a vodka soda maybe once or twice a week.
Oh, that's nice.
And that's it.
That's nice.
Yeah. So. What? You're judging me?
No! No, Michael, I drink way more than you. I'm not judging you at all. I didn't drink for years. Why? Because we were starting the show, we were moving out here, and I kind of felt like, and you were reminding me of this as you talked about, which you didn't mention this exactly, you mentioned the book, but I just couldn't help but think, it's like, you were fresh out of this experience, and I think that, anyone is going through mourning, and I feel when my father died when I was 28, it wasn't the same thing at all, but it was death. And I think one of the scary things is going, I don't know what lies beneath. I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of aware of the way I'm feeling and the road I'm going down and where I'm turning emotionally, but I don't know what might trigger some unlocked thing or whatever. And so anyway, I kind of refocused, because when I was coming out here and it's a heady business, it's hard to, I was kind of scared. I want to keep my wits about me. That's over. Lose your wits. Oh, how am I going to ask that? But this is related to you not drinking as the end of that, as in the final months of that experience. You had Kit's parents staying with you in a very tiny apartment.
Yes.
And I'm not saying alcohol would have helped that, but I segue because I'm wondering, how was it? How was it for all of you to be there?
It was actually really wonderful.
Yeah.
I loved his parents, and I talk about this in the book. I know there's a lot of situations where you hate your in-laws and there's tension. That was never the case. I enjoyed them. I looked forward to spending time with them. And when it became clear that Kit was going to die, and at the end was near, and they asked, can we stay? We want to be here in case we don't want to miss his final moments. It was without hesitation. I was like, absolutely, it's not going to necessarily be comfortable for you. It's a small apartment, but you stay here as long as you want.
Did you find them a comfort?
I did.
Yeah.
I absolutely found them a comfort. The hard thing for me, though, was, it's one thing for me to have a ringside seat to Kit's suffering. It's another thing for his parents to watch their only child go through what he went through. And Kit tried to spare them of that as much as he could. But, at the end of the day, they needed to be there.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to say no. I understood it. And, Kit's the hero in the book, referred to in the title, but there are a lot of heroes in this book. His parents are heroes to me because they showed up. That doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
I know situations where parents run in the other direction in situations like this. They did not do that. They ran toward the fire, and they were inspiring to me.
Yeah. That's good that y'all have that time together. So you're currently bi-coastal, if not bisexual. How's LA treating you?
It's fun.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's interesting. I found, and part of the reason I became bi-coastal was professionally, more TV is out here. It's better for my business, for TV Line, for me to be where TV is. But also socially, I have more friends out here. I have a bigger
really?
social circle, and partly that's because a lot of the friends Kit and I had in New York were couple friends, and it's like, couples going out, and that dynamic changes. And as much as they're like, no, please come along with us to the movies, it's hard to still not feel like a third wheel.
Right.
A lot of these couples also then had kids.
Right.
And that also changes things, and they become busy. So I found in many ways that I was starting over.
Yeah.
I was like, I in New York, I need to make new friends. At the same time, I knew I had a lot of close friends in LA that I could lean on, and I just wanted to be out here more.
You told Kit that you were thinking of moving, or that you were going to, and he said, I thought you might. Is the implication there he would not have ever wanted to move to LA?
Correct, he hated LA.
Okay.
With a passion. He hated LA. I brought him out when we first started dating because I was like going to impress him with all of my celebrity connections and the parties and all of this stuff, and he could not have been more miserable.
Really?
With LA, and he wasn't really into the whole, didn't really love TV that much, and he wasn't like starstruck.
Right.
Certain people, like if he ran into the ab-fab girls, he probably would have shit himself.
Right.
But aside from that,
it's pretty
like,
specific.
He did nothing really impressed him, yeah. So he did. It's so funny. The first time he came out with me, I had to work, and I was like, well, what are you going to do? And he's like, well, I'll just wander around LA for a couple hours, and this was before Uber and Lyft or whatever. So I dropped him off in Hollywood, and it happened to be like 100 degrees that day. But anyway,
God.
he got on some bus and ended up in East
my
LA.
God.
So didn't know what was going on. He was like, he went through some kind of horror show that probably maybe tainted his experience.
Rightfully so. Jesus Christ. Christmas.
Yeah.
Christmas plays a big role in the book. Christmas always played a big role in your life. Not in Kit's. That took some doing. But it got done, and then it became a big thing. What's Christmas like now?
Really difficult.
Yeah.
Really difficult. I still feel like I'm trying to figure out what Christmas is going to be for me now. And each year I'm like, what am I going to do? My brother, David, both my brothers have been really nice about, please come stay with us. And it's nice. It's nice to get that invitation. At the same time, there's part of me that just wants to do something completely different each,
Right.
I grapple with it, like right up till the end, like what am I going to do?
Yeah.
Am I going to just hop on a plane or like go on some African safari, just do something completely different?
Yeah.
I end up, the last 2 years, have spent it with family, which has been nice, but it's hard. It's hard. I'm trying to reconnect with the Christmas spirit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Christmas is so about tradition and everything. That's what's so hard,
Yeah.
Kit had friends at Wyeth and work in Tampa. Are you still in touch with most of his friends?
I am.
Yeah. Where's Jen?
Jen is in Florida.
She's in Florida.
She came up for the Q&A in
That's
New
right,
York.
I saw that on Instagram.
And Jen was an amazingly instrumental part of this book in terms of going through Kit's photo archive and helping jog my memory from the early days in our relationship. Because Kit had these hard drives full of photos. Kit took so many photos. And he had these hard drives of photos. And it was overwhelming enough, the prospect of writing this book. The prospect of also having to go through hundreds of thousands of photos from the past 13 years was just too daunting. So I sent the hard drive to her in Florida, and when I was in the middle of writing a section, I was like, can you pull what you have from January to March of, 2004? Because that's where I'm writing. And then she would send me 100 photos from them. And I would go through them. It's like I realized things I forgot, and I'd pull one out, and I'm like, this one's going in the book. And that was hard for her. Like, talk about triggering, going through these photos for her. And also, she was seeing a lot of personal photos too. You know, of us, of Kit, but it was just, you know, she was his best friend.
Yeah.
But she was very much a major part of this book.
Now we're talking about. I promise, I'll hurry. It's just okay. The photos. There's the last photo in the book. For those that have read it, or I guess you could flip to it if you have a copy in front of you. The last photo in the book, Kit is holding something, and I told you backstage what I thought it was, and I was wrong. And so, how did you want to ask?
So does anybody
know what that is?
Who thinks they know what that is? Right.
Is it
The monk.
Hans
George?
All right. Well, so it is a Smurf, but most people did not know that. They were like, "Is that your cat? Is that a teddy bear?" They knew it was Kit, but they didn't know what he was holding. So it is a Smurf, and I'll tell you the story behind that Smurf. On that fateful last trip to Millersburg that Kit took, he sent me. So going back, when we were in Pennsylvania, sometimes we would go to flea markets, and they had auctions. Anybody know what the auctions are? It's like the big thing in Pennsylvania. It's like a flea market, but it's a little scarier. And so anyway, I would always be hunting for Smurfs and all of these things. And I found this perfect 80s Smurf stuffed animal that was in incredible condition, and I bought it with the intention of bringing it home to New York with me. And I left it behind accidentally. And his mom put it on the bed that we sleep in their home, and it just stayed there for like 8 years, and it just became the Smurf that stayed in Kit's parents' house. So he, on his last trip, he sends me this text of him embracing this Smurf.
That's what that picture is.
And that's what that picture is, and I love
Oh,
that photo. And it's much more clear when you see it in color that it's a Smurf. It's less clear when you see it in black and white. But to me, that picture means so many things. It means his acceptance of me and all of my idiosyncrasies, namely my love of
Smurfs?
And I just felt like it really captured the essence of our relationship.
I guess I'll make this our last question between the two of us before we cut it to all of you, and it's partly for that reason it keeps coming up, but everyone wants to know if there's talk about making a movie.
I'll say this. No, not really talk. I mean, I'm focused on the book right now. My feeling about a movie is that I haven't seen this story out there. I think it could make a great movie. I don't have to see a movie be made. In the right hands, I think this could be a really beautiful movie. People are asking me who would play you. And I said this in New York, and I'll say it here again, but when I think of Kitten, I always imagined Ernie and Bert. So, any filmmaker out there have a lot of fun with that movie. But that's sort of how I imagine it.
Hold on, I'm going to hand it over, I swear. I just want to make sure there's anything, because this is about me after all. Was it what else did I want to know before I let you go? I guess that's all. Oh, did you use the poppers?
Oh my God. So can I tell you a funny story about these poppers? No, I didn't use these poppers, but when I moved out of that Jane Street apartment...
Yeah, you kept them.
Yeah, so Rose, my friend Rose, who's mentioned in the book, she's a dresser on Broadway, was helping me clean out the apartment, and I was going off to Goodwill to drop stuff off, and she was going through my kitchen cabinets, and I come back, and she's got the poppers open, and she's like, I didn't know what these were, but I sniffed them.
No!
And she was like, and it smells like alcohol or funny or something. And I could not believe it. And I told her what they were, and we had the biggest laugh. Kid would have loved it. So basically, Rose tried the poppers before I did.
How dare her.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get you some. Okay, so how does this next part work?
Any questions?
Oh, there we go.
Hey, Michael.
Hey, Mike. The book was beautiful and several parts where I cried. One was where you're scattering the ashes and you have the wedding bands. And can you tell me why you decided to do what you did with the bands instead of something else?
So the question was why I decided to toss the wedding bands in the river with Kit's ashes in Pennsylvania.
I had that written down too.
It was something I debated about because I was like, is this something I'm going to regret doing? Are they going to have to go scuba diving for these rings, a week later because I'm a mess and missing them? When it really was just in the moment when those ashes were scattered, I just knew that they belonged in the river with his ashes. It was just that feeling of like that's where they belong.
Yeah.
So I tossed them in. Hi.
More.
First of all, I want to say I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
I related because my best friend of 32 years just died of AIDS-related cancer. So
I'm sorry.
I thank you. So I wondered, how do you deal with regrets that you've had? How do you overcome sort of mulling over moments that you wish you'd done differently?
I don't have any regrets. Maybe I should. I don't know. I don't have any regrets. And I think part of that is because, through all of our ups and downs, I never gave up on us. I never gave up on him. He never gave up on me. Like, we worked hard on this relationship. I was not a perfect boyfriend. I wish at times that I had paid more attention to him, and I talk about this in the book, like really paid attention to him. And there were a couple times where I chose my work over him. But I don't, in looking at the big picture, I don't have any regrets. I feel very much at peace with how our relationship was and how I was in it and all of that.
Jumping off of that, I feel that one of the reasons this book is so effective is because it takes such a stark, naked look at everything in there. But I do think the other thing it does is, I wouldn't have thought it like this before, and I'm not surprised to hear you say that, having read the book and the way you've covered the material. It feels like, this is a horrible analogy, but it feels like doing an audition or something, and if you go in there and you do everything you can do and you feel like you did what you could, it doesn't matter. There are no regrets. You don't have to get the job, and I feel like it's similar. As long as you feel like, I did what I could. I really did. I had my head in the game as much as I could, depending on what was going on. So
I want to say one other thing too, and I touch on this a little bit in the book as well, but one thing that I never took for granted the year the kid was sick was how lucky we were to have all of his care paid for, and that was not something we ever had to worry about. And I know that's not a luxury that everyone has, and I can't imagine what it's like to go through a crisis like this and then also have to worry about how you're going to pay for all of this.
Right.
And I was lucky enough to have a job that gave me great benefits, that Kit was on the plan, and we never had to worry about that. And also, I want to say, I was lucky enough to have a job that allowed me to step away from work and be where I needed to be. And I want to give credit to my boss, Jay Penske, who is here, who in the instant he found out that this was happening was like, you do whatever you need to do, and however I can help you, however the company can help you, we are here for you. And he very much kept to his word. And thank you, Jay, for that. I'm immensely grateful. And also want to give a shout out to my staff that picked up all of my slack for 11 months and kept TV Line running and thriving throughout all of this. So, I walked away from this experience with also feeling very blessed. And Kit always also felt like that. Like, he would always say, someone always has it worse. And he would be like, I can't imagine how people do this without pot. Pot really helped him get through a lot of the symptoms. And there was a lot of things he was grateful for. He talked about, we would see those bills come in, like, from because you saw how much the chemo costs, and then how much, you see like $11,000 for like one chemo session, and he would see those bills, and he was just so grateful about so much, and so was I.
Yeah.
Anyway, question?
Hi. I just
Are
want
you
to.
Instagramming this?
I'm periscoping it.
All right, go
I
ahead.
want people to see it. I just want to
Really
say,
intrusive.
listen.
I don't remember giving
Whatever.
permission to this,
Well,
but
listen,
all right.
it happens. I just want to say, as someone that knows and loves you, and I think I speak for anyone that knows and loves you, what a beautiful thing it is that you shared this with us. You're a private person, we know that, and you will give us bits and pieces of you, and we are delighted to get them. But for you to pour yourself open and share this story for us, it helps us feel closer to you. It helps us feel closer to Kit. It helps people that are going through the same thing find their healing. I could not be more prouder of you. I could not be happier that this exists in the world for those who need it. And I just wanted to take the time to tell you that, and I love you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That's about Nicole Brown appearing in The Mayor this fall
You
on
know-
ABC.
It worked. It worked.
There's always a price.
It's always a price. Always a price.
Last question.
Yes, hello.
Hello.
Just wanted to ask, after going through a life harrowing experience like this, finding the strength to go back and then reanalyze it and to write it down again, what was it that pushed you? Was it like built up emotion, or did you just like power through it? Like, because that's kind of like, you know, what I want to know. Like, how do you find that inner strength to go in? Do you just, like I said, bulldoze it, or do you wait for it to just build up and then let it go?
I mean, it's a really great question, and it was just, there were times when I was in the middle of writing this book where I questioned, why am I doing this to myself? I don't think this is helping. I think it's making it worse. Ultimately, I just kept coming back to the big picture and this incredible opportunity I was given to honor him, to introduce the world to him. And Kit said something to Jen the last time she visited that haunts me to this day. And when she told me, it broke me. He said to her, please don't forget me. And just the thought,
Yeah.
that
Such a
anyone would
human
forget
thought.
me.
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure that no one forgets it.
Amen.
Yeah. Well, you did it in spades. I mean, like, you know, as I said, and you're saying, it's like you just, I can't believe I don't get to meet him now. Branching off of what he's talking about, though, did you ever have to step away? Did you were like, I'm not writing this for 48 hours, 36, whatever?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah?
So I only wrote on weekends, you know, because I
Oh.
have a full-time demanding job, and I knew I
Right.
needed to keep those things separate. So weekends were my writing time. And then...
TGIF.
Yeah, and so absolutely there were times when I would step away because it was too emotional. But also, I'm not the kind of writer who can just sit down, okay, it's Friday night now, or it's Saturday, time to write.
Right.
I needed to be in the headspace to do it, and so a lot of times the spirit might have not moved me until 6 o'clock on Saturday, and I'm just, procrastinating because I'm not feeling it. And I'm wondering, am I going to feel it at all this weekend? Am I going to come up empty this weekend?
Were you on a deadline?
I mean, I had an optimistic deadline. I was like, I could knock this out in 9 months, and then it turned out to be 18 months. And Simon & Schuster was incredibly understanding about me pushing back that deadline when I needed more time, and I realized it was going to take more time.
That was a smart investment by them, though. The results pan that out. That was worth it. Extra 9 months here or there. Anyone?
I think that's it.
Bueller? Okay.
I want to say one thing about our moderator.
Woo!
Oh, dear.
Turnabout is fair play.
Oh, God. Yeah, you can ask me anything. Did you want to ask me anything about the book and my feelings about it?
No.
Okay, fair.
I don't care what you thought about it.
Nope.
I want to say that from the first time I met you, and this was before you were you, and before Big Bang was what it was, and before you had 34 Emmys. You are the same person today as you were then, and that's what I love about you, and that's why I feel connected to you. That's why I asked you to be here today, Every time I see you on a red carpet, every time I see you at an event and I'm interviewing you, you are exactly the same person that I met that first time. And I have worked in this business long enough to know how difficult it is to remain grounded like that. And thank you.
Oh.
Part of it's that I'm so goddamn old. Couldn't keep me in place.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Yes, thank y'all so much.
All right, so here's where I need audience participation. I need you to get your books and hold them high.
Oh, yeah.
Exciting.
And we're going to do a picture of the author and our guest.
Oh, I see.
I'm going to stand up here. It's going to be this whole, yeah, it's a sea of green. Go ahead, yes.
I'm with Michael's camera.
One more from a little bit different